But there are a lot of other things happening in the United States, and some of them are meta to much larger trends. In fact, I started out, with my riff out of Crash of 2016 about cycles of depression and war, and there's also a large piece of that about cycles of basically oligarchy, of giant corporate dominance, as we saw during the Gilded Age, and as I think we're seeing again right now. One of the points that San Francisco has been making, and many cities, particularly those that depend heavily on tourism, but even many that don't, have been making over the last few decades, as Reagan's suspension in 1982 of the enforcement of the Sherman Antitrust Act has led to a smaller and smaller number of very large businesses taking over local industry, and particularly retail and service sector stuff, and moving it, into, at the end of every night, every Walmart in America pushes a button, and like a giant vacuum cleaner, all the money goes to Benton Rock, or whatever it is, Benton, Arkansas. The results of a study done by the Civics Economics Group for the city of Austin, back when Waterloo Records and Book People were threatened by a Borders setting up shop across the street from them, were striking. They say for every $100 spent at a chain store, a national chain store, approximately $13 remained in the local economy, largely through wages or rents. But for every $100 spent at a local business, $45 would recirculate locally, thanks to wages, corporate profits, locally owned, oriented procurement, and potential future investing in the community. Now, looking at this, the city of San Francisco has said, we're going to make it harder for chain stores to set up business in San Francisco. We're going to tilt the table in favor of locally owned businesses. At the national level, it may be less efficient, but we think it's better for our communities, and it's certainly better for the image of San Francisco to have locally owned businesses than to look just exactly like every other city in America. Katherine Mangu-Ward is with us. She is the managing editor of Reason magazine, the website reason.com. Katherine, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. You are taking the side, if I understand this correctly, of these giant monopolistic corporations over the side of local communities, and I don't understand why you would do that. I thought that the libertarian perspective that's typically espoused by Reason magazine was very, very strong on local control. Why shouldn't local people have control over the nature and economics of their own community?
I'd actually say I'm taking the side of customers here. In particular, the idea that San Francisco gets to pick who gets to open up shop, who gets the benefits of the support of the Planning Commission, on the grounds that the local economy benefits, that there's more tax collected to benefit the government of San Francisco, among other things. I don't think that that's the correct standard. I think the standard should probably be where do people want to shop and what do they want to buy, not what's best for the San Francisco municipal government.
But you're not taking the position of the customers, because the customers are also the voters and residents of San Francisco. They elected these representatives. There is no major impeach the representatives who on the Planning Commission or the City Council. In fact, they're being supported in this. So you're taking the position of Walmart and McDonald's in opposition to the will of the customers. Because, as I said, the customers are the voters. San Francisco is a democracy.
Well, it's certainly true that San Francisco is a democracy. I guess I would disagree that democracies do a great job of perfectly translating the interests of customers through the apparatus of the state. If that were the case, then
what's the alternative?
We would also see on the national level where we enjoy similar democratic processes. We wouldn't see huge amounts of corporate subsidies, which I think you and I can both agree are bad things. Just because people are legitimately elected representatives does not mean that they are also eligible to make consumer choices for the citizens.
Why not? If without digressing into a discussion of Citizens United or the doctrine of corporate personhood or something like that, which Ron Paul, interestingly, trounced on this show the other day, explicitly saying corporations are not people and should not have the right to participate in these processes. But nonetheless, if we can set that argument aside, again, what is wrong with a community? Why would you side with a large transnational corporation over a local community? I don't understand. What is libertarian about that, or objectivist about that, or reasonable? However you're defining your philosophy, how is it consistent with that?
The crucial difference here, as always, is who has the power of coercion. No one can make you walk into a Walmart and purchase something. But what the Planning Commission of San Francisco is doing is saying, we absolutely refuse to let a Walmart open their doors here. They're saying we will not allow it, and we will use police power or the power of the state to stop it.
Well, they're using the power of taxation to stop it.
It's not an equivalent act.
But the fact of the matter is that you can prevent people from walking into a Walmart, or on the other hand, you can prevent people from walking into locally owned businesses by allowing these large transnational corporations to wipe out all the locally owned businesses. And if there are no more locally owned businesses, the corporations have used the force of the marketplace to accomplish that. And I would say that's a force that's just as real as the force of government.
The existence of a Walmart or of a national chain doesn't prevent people from walking into a local store. It might incentivize them not to, because the prices are better at a big conglomerate. And again, that is a totally different thing than taking those choices away, than saying your only choice is to shop at a local store.
For every Walmart that opens, on average, about 114 local businesses over the first 5 years of the existence of that Walmart go out of business. That is a form of force. It's an economic form of force, and it's one based in competition. And you're correct. The big national chains are coming in with economies of scale and purchasing out of China and whatnot. They're offering lower prices, and the smaller, local, less efficient businesses can't compete with that. But why shouldn't the community be able to say, we're willing to put up with a few percentage points of inefficiency and higher prices in order to have 45% of the money that we spend stay in our local community instead of just 14%, and in order to have a local character to our businesses rather than a homogeneous, bland, everything looks like Olive Garden and McDonald's?
I think it's a totally legitimate position to say I would rather have a colorful local coffee shop than a Starbucks, and I think the best and most appropriate way to express that preference is to spend your own personal money at the colorful local coffee shop.
But what if that colorful local coffee shop doesn't exist because Starbucks was able to run them out of business?
That doesn't happen, though, through some magical power that Starbucks...
No, it happens, as I said, by the power of the marketplace. Starbucks has billions. The local business has a couple 100,000. How can they compete?
Well, for one thing, they do all the time. I have a Starbucks across the street from my office, and I have a charming coffee shop named Filter, manned by mustachioed hipsters right across the other way, and I go to Filter. That's, I think, what real customer choice looks like.
Okay. All right. Katherine Mangu-Ward, managing editor of Reason Magazine, Reason.com. Thanks for coming on. It's an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
And a conversation I think more and more communities across America are going to start having as alternatives to the Reaganization of this country start becoming apparent. We'll be back.